Hello and welcome back to Information Overload, where today we're going to talk about the hot button topic of the hour. It's the top 10 celebrities speaking out against Jimmy Fallon. So first, let's get a good idea as to what's happening, because I personally had no idea until like 20 minutes ago. So last Thursday, Rolling Stone dropped an interview with 2 current and 14 former Jimmy Fallon employees who shed light on their personal negative experiences working on the show. Since then, Fallon has released a statement of apology and expressed he had no intent to create what's being called now a toxic work environment. The complaints from these employees revolved around walking on eggshells when Fallon, their boss, is in a bad mood or experiencing extreme stress in their work roles under him due to high expectations. And now to counter this, we have a swarm of positive affirmations that Fallon has exhibited negative behaviors in the past, namely around 2015, but has pulled his act together, and that the environment he creates at work isn't always perfect, but it's considerably better than what's being described in this interview. That being said, let's dive into our list. Coming in at number 10, the first celebrity will be Martin Short. Now, Martin Short, who was interviewed alongside whoever, isn't a recent call out. In fact, not many celebrities have negative things to say about Fallon currently amidst all the controversy. Rather, when they have had things to say to the man, they all tend to do it in the moment, as will be evident by many of the circumstances on this list. However, following the reports that Fallon allegedly created an ugly environment behind the scenes on The Tonight Show, a resurfaced clip of Martin Short calling him out for being fake started making the rounds on Twitter. And I gotta say, Martin went in, telling Jimmy, "This is the great show on television because there is no host in late night that pretends to care the way that you do." While Jimmy awkwardly laughs and thanks him, Martin continues to say, "I mean, no one captures phoniness the way you do. It's a gift." Steve Martin decided to chip in, since he was the other guy at the interview, adding, "Yeah, when I'm at home watching the show, which is rare, I think for somebody who does a certain substance, your teeth look great." And because the two hadn't dug Jimmy enough, Short adds in the finishing touch of, "You prove that tall, handsome white men can make it in show business." You may be wondering, did Fallon prompt this roast in any way? Actually, no. The interview with the two men only makes it 45 seconds in before they start going off on him, which is why Jimmy kinda awkwardly sits there and takes it. Number 9 will be Tina Fey. Kind of. Again, she's not really calling him out, but similar to the Martin clip, an excerpt of her 2011 memoir, Bossy Pants, is going viral thanks to New Yorker editor Aaron Overby, who tweeted it alongside a caption that Fey had Fallon dead to rights. In what's described as one in a series of love letters to her best friend Amy Poehler in the book, Tina describes a situation for early in Amy's career on SNL, which started in early September of 2001. Amy and a team of writers were doing a read-through of an upcoming bit, shooting off ideas, and Amy, as Tina describes, was doing some nonsense with Seth Meyers and did something vulgar as a joke that was dirty, loud, and unladylike. Fallon, who as Faye mentioned was the star of the show at the time, took offense to it. Apparently trying to lighten up how he delivered his criticism, he decided to deliver it in a faux squeamish voice saying, "Stop that, it's not cute, I don't like it," some shit like that. Amy apparently picked up on the fact he was actually bothered under his attempt to be funny about the complaint, and Tina described that she stopped, went black in the eyes for a second, and responded, "I don't care if you like it." Fallon was then startled while Poehler went right back to enjoying a ridiculous bit. However, while this circulates, we should remember what isn't included in the viral tweet, that Tina openly stated Jimmy and Amy are very good friends and there was never any real beef between them. Here's a classic, however. Number 8 is Dakota Johnson. Hilarious. While Dakota Johnson has most notably appeared in 50 Shades of Grey, and that's about it, she is famous for firing back without fear at reality TV hosts and interviewers alike. She famously cut off Ellen, which pretty much broke the internet, but she also had an iconic interaction with Jimmy Fallon before that, when he kept interrupting her on The Tonight Show. Fallon has a bad habit of asking celebrities for stories, but then asking too many interruptive or distracting questions as they tell them, and sometimes the celebrity doesn't even get to finish the tale before Jimmy's questions push them into another. Dakota was trying to talk about how she's being sprayed by a skunk for the 6th time, which is weird as hell. I want to know what she's doing to skunks to make them hate her. But then Jimmy interrupts her for a final time, and in turn she interrupted him by asking, "Aren't you supposed to let people talk on this show?" Jimmy took a second to laugh and look kind of incredulous and a tad annoyed, responding, "If they know what they're talking about, yes! What the hell are you talking about?" While both he and Dakota laughed. Both parties brushed off the experience pretty well, despite how much trolling online it received, becoming a feature of memes and tweets globally. Number 7 is Blake Shelton, or as I call him, Gwen Stefani's husband. All I know about him is he makes country music, and I guess that's something Jimmy Fallon and I have in common, because it seems when it comes time to interview Shelton, Fallon kind of falls flat on how to approach him or what to ask. class. When Blake Shelton appeared on the show in 2017, he was not the most receptive to Fallon's humor. Jimmy Fallon jokingly made fun of Blake Shelton's southern accent and tossed in a few southern stereotype jabs in the mix. Nothing harsh or biased per se, but it definitely rubbed the country singer the wrong way. Instead of laughing along with the humor, Shelton was visibly annoyed. Kind of funny that the dude whose whole brand in music is built upon being southern can't take a good ribbon about it. In fact, Shelton didn't even laugh at Jimmy Fallon's jokes much. Finally, Jimmy Fallon started interviewing Blake Shelton properly, and Shelton replied in a dry, monotone voice, "Thank God," causing an awkward moment where even the live audience didn't know if they should laugh or acknowledge the quip. Their senses of humor just don't mesh. Number 6 is Rami Malek. So, the childhood crush of every nerdy, history-obsessed kid that watched Night at the Museum like a religion. Now, he's all grown up and dominating the screens in complicated dramas such as Mr. Robot or unreal biopics such as Bohemian Rhapsody. But let's not forget another time Rami dominated our screens. Rather, the phone ones. Tweets and memes hit the internet hard after a hilarious and awkward interaction occurred during the late night show interview between Fallon and Malek. Jimmy was expressing his adoration for the recent Rhapsody biopic and elatedly rambled to Rami that if I had your email or your phone number, I would have called you like a gazillion times, like, dude, you were unbelievable. Rami is kind of awkwardly leaned back in his chair and does like the darting gaze, sort of like awkwardly looking at Fallon, then the audience, then back at Fallon, and uncomfortably mentions, "You have my email and phone number." There's an uncomfortable beat in which Fallon, with his usual water off a duck's back routine, responds with, "That's true, I just decided not to call you, ha 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 ha," before awkwardly moving on. Number 5 is Shawn Mendes. The sassy Canadian singer was 18 when he first pulled what would sort of become like a short-term stunt of his whenever he was around Jimmy Fallon, which is telling the TV host that he's old. And not in a particular funny haha way, just kind of in an awkward fall flat kind of way. It started in 2016 when Mendes was gearing up to do a performance on the show. Jimmy messes up and gives him a late cue to start singing, leading to Mendes telling Jimmy his timing is all wrong and this was all on you, while the two awkwardly laugh off the fail. As Jimmy's trying to continue, however, Mendes tosses in and "I told you I'm just not as old as you," eliciting laughs, woes, and ohs from the audience. Fallon himself laughs at the joke, especially when the band follows it with a or rim shot, and Jimmy manages to work with that first insult, replying, "Son, don't talk back to your father like that, don't talk back to your dad like that, go to your room right now." Mendes, however, doesn't take the cue to kind of back off and keep doing their actual bit that's planned, and awkwardly keeps rolling with his roast of the host. It doesn't mean "you don't look old, you're fine, you just are old, I'm just very young." It seemed to be the last of it, but only a few minutes later, when Fallon comments, "That is a hit song right there," in regards to Mendes singing of a tweet, he abruptly tells Fallon, again, no context, "You sound like my grandfather," which goes ignored and uncomfortable by the audience and Fallon. Number 4, John Oliver. Host versus host. There's never gonna be a winner. Oh, well, maybe there is, but who's to say? While interviewing John Oliver on the late night show, Fallon and he have one of their many awkward confrontations, wherein Fallon had been waxing poetic to Oliver, saying, "You know, last week tonight," which I still think is the best title of any show ever. Oliver, without missing a beat, interrupts and says, "The best title? Wow, that sounds like damning me with fake praise, Jimmy. I really love the title." It goes downhill once that's finished. I love how John Oliver's voice is so distinct, even as someone who doesn't watch him, I can literally hear him saying those words in my brain. It's hilarious, however, to see Jimmy pressured to tell the truth when he always plays it safe. This is one of many instances where Oliver has put Jimmy in this situation, such as the video call interview during COVID with Jimmy, wherein he kept asking the Alexa inappropriate questions for a public video, forcing Fallon to have to disable it, and essentially not give Amazon a free commercial of him and the other late night host. Number 3 is Roger Waters. For those who don't know but love to wear the t-shirts, Roger Waters is one of the Pink Floyd members, of whom Jimmy Fallon is a massive fan. Naturally, it made for an exciting opportunity to interview Roberts. However, Jimmy inevitably steered the topic towards former Syd Barrett, who left the band struggling with schizophrenia and mental wellness. This immediately triggered an emotional reaction from Waters, who took on a very serious tone when discussing Syd that implied no nonsense was to be made. However, Jimmy doesn't seem to pick up on the vibe, and he goes on to bring up a story where Barrett was in an episode and interrupted a Pink Floyd recording. Fallon chose to describe Syd insensitively, saying a bald man with a toothbrush in his mouth. Waters clears up that story, making sure to tell Fallon that his friend being consumed by addiction and mental illness wasn't a funny story, and that the entire situation was very sad. Number 2 is Jerry Seinfeld. I chose to put Seinfeld in here due to his vocal defense of Jimmy Fallon in the last few days, but also his acknowledgement that he defended others from him. So, for those who haven't read it yet, in the interviews recently given by current and former staffers of Jimmy Fallon, one recalled a story in which Seinfeld, the interviewee of the night, had seen Fallon being hard on one of his workers, scolding them for flubbing a simple task while they filmed. The anonymous whistleblowers claimed Seinfeld right then and there ordered Fallon to apologize to the worker and that Fallon supposedly complied. Go Jerry Seinfeld, we love to see it. The anonymous former employee said that in interview, it was very awkward and Jerry was like, "You should apologize to him," almost trying to make it a joke. It was one of the strangest moments ever and so many people were there, so it's kind of hard to forget. Rolling Stone claims Seinfeld's reps did not respond to multiple requests to comment before publishing the article, but once the story was published, Seinfeld sent them the following statement. "This is so stupid. I remember this moment quite well. I teased Jimmy about a flub and we all had a fun laugh about how rarely Jimmy is thrown off. It was not uncomfortable at all. Jimmy and I still occasionally recall it and laugh. Idiotic twisting of events." A source with knowledge of The Tonight Show also told the Post on Thursday that the Rolling Stones version of the Seinfeld story is inaccurate, which is now starting to cast some light on the debatable reality of these accusations. Number 1 is Joaquin Pheonix. Joaquin is famous for a multitude of reasons, from his late brother River Phoenix to his chaotic performances in films such as Her and Joker. But Joaquin also pulled a move on the late night show that made people with complicated names everywhere glow a little inside. When Jimmy Fallon tried to give Joaquin Phoenix a nickname, he wasn't having it. Fallon, with very little context, tells Joaquin, "I call you Wa." Then Joaquin was like, "Why?" Fallon laughs and says, "Well, your name's Joaquin, and I feel like that's too long for me." Joaquin, looking extremely unimpressed, replied without hesitation that "you can handle it. I feel like you can handle it. You do a monologue every night." Dude, let me say thank you, Joaquin, on behalf of myself and everyone out there with a unique or foreign name. It gets very old and very offensive when people don't try to pronounce it, would rather just assign you a nickname for their own comfort and convenience. People often describe the entirety of this interview, as well as the memory game instilled at the beginning, as vague evidence towards Joaquin disliking Fallon as a whole, especially after this point in the interview where he remains cold, aloof, and distant with the man. Alright, thank you for tuning in once again. I sure hope you enjoyed. Take some time to comment, like, and subscribe to see more from us, and I'll see you next time.